guys, another quick video on some of the 701 products. This particular product I'm going to do today is the suspension steering. Just got it in. I've already got my ski apart, pulled out the old 701 steering. I'm just going to show you. You can see on the 701, the original 701 is shorter. The new one is roughly about 1.5 inches taller. You can also look down at the bottom. On the bottom is a little bracket coming down. There's a alright guys, with it apart you can clearly see the height difference of the head. It's going to be a pretty big increase in ride height or arm height. Me personally, I'm a taller guy at 6'3", so the aggregate height will probably help me out a little bit. Again, now that it's broken apart, you can clearly see where the spring resides. And the cover actually is there to cover over the spring. Of course, it looks fantastic as well when it's on the ski. But the way this is going to operate is you've got a solid tube versus the old, which has a hollow tube for the steering head to slide onto. Your head is going to actually come down, make contact with this particular ring right here. That ring, when it gets compressed, will actually compress the spring. Internally, you have the solid rod going through the center, which will then attach down here to the shock absorber inside. And of course, the shock absorber is held steady here by the bracket. Again, ultimately, this is going to be a lot softer landing, but that is the ins and outs, of course, with the solid pipe or solid head mount. You're not going to be able to run your cables and everything through the center, so you will have to actually reroute those cables. Of course, with the old, you could run the cables straight through the center. Alright guys, showed you a few things about how the suspension steering works. Before we put it on, I want to go ahead and show you a couple more things here. One thing I did want to note is there are additional strengthening tabs on the steering stops to make sure that they do not flex. The actual center tab for the steering stop is actually also taller, a little bit thicker, beefier, and the overall feel of the unit is a lot beefier than the original. Now then, going forward, one thing I did want to mention is the tools that would be needed. You'll need a 10mm socket, ratchet, a little bit of an extension so you can get all the hood bolts out. Also going to need that for the nuts on the steering unit. Going to need a 5mm Allen head for the socket screws on the head of the unit, as well as the cover bolts, and of course a 12mm ratchet wrench, and that should be about it, other than a few other odds and ends that you'll need. Before I get started putting it in, I did want to show I removed the original factory steering stops, and those stops I had to widen the holes up, and I've slid all my lines and wires through those holes. Alright, to install the unit, first thing we're going to do is put it in through the hole, grab your clamp, install your clamp just loosely to hold it into place while we finish the top. It will sit, hold here. One thing, make sure that your tab is over on the side of your steering. That's pretty common. From here, we'll grab one of our cover bolts in our cover. We'll slide the unit up, lining the holes up. go ahead and install our nut. Now I got it held up there so we can go ahead and install all of the rest of the bolts. There's a total of 6. Alright, we've got our 6 cap heads through the top, loosely tightened with our nuts. There's a cross hatch pattern here. Just keep going across, making sure that you tighten them down in sequence so nothing gets bound up. You can use a ratchet here, or you can use a wrench. Alright, now we've got that done, we can go back and tighten our bolts up through our clamp. Alright, at this point we're ready to install our hood, so I'll close this down and we'll go ahead and get the hood set up on here. Alright, got the hood bolted down. At this point I've already got my steering cable installed, the new bracket to push it out to the edge since I'm going past the 3rd hole. Go ahead and install the cable onto the pivot. And what we'll want to do is go out to the back, make sure that we have it pushed to the center position so that we can just set the steering head on. Alright, at this point we've got the hood on, got the shaft centered up, and what we're going to do is go ahead and install the loosely install the head. Alright, for the end stops, what we're going to do is we're actually going to rotate the steering at the back at the nozzle to one side. In this case we will turn it to the left, or actually to the right, and we'll set the end stop on this side. First thing that we want to do to set the end stops is make sure we back these 17mm nuts out, and then back the 8mm Allens out for both sides. Alright, we're going to go ahead and turn the unit to the right. Alright, with the unit turned all the way to the right, we're going to take the 8mm Allen, and while watching the cable, we're going to turn the Allen head in. What we're looking for is we're looking for 1mm of movement out of the cable itself. Alright, we've got roughly 1mm movement. We're going to go ahead and hold the Allen and tighten the jam nut. Now we're going to flip it over to the left side. And again, we're going to turn the unit until we see about 1 millimeter of cable travel. Alright, now at this point we're going to go ahead and make sure that we're back on center. And once we're back on center, we can go ahead and move the head to center. And then once you have the head on center, you can go ahead and lock the head down. The way I do the head is I tighten from side to side, starting with this cap head right here, and then go to the other, and then just keep working my way out. Alright, we can go ahead and install our bars. We're going with the Mega Fat Bars from 701 Industries. When installing your bars, make sure that you get the bars centered, and also when tightening down the bars, make sure that you tighten the bars down evenly. Okay guys, as you can see, we're all together, minus zip tie here and there, mainly just to hold the cables in. One thing I did want to mention about the Mega Fat Bars is notice that the bend comes in real close. This actually gives you a lot more room up here. You still have room on the other side of your start-stop switch. So any other levers or flip bars that you would like to install, there's still room to do that. On the Pro Tapers, that is not possible because it comes further out before it goes up. So one very nice thing about these set of bars. With this unit, as you can tell, the head is sitting a little bit higher than that center section. One thing about this is if you put preload on this by pushing the head section down further, what you will do is actually increase the stiffness of the spring by putting preload on that spring. You can put a little preload on it. You can run this flush if you would like, or you could actually run it a little bit further down with a little more preload. I wouldn't get overzealous with the preload, as again, it's going to make it stiffer. A couple of things that I did want to go over before we're finished. Please make sure that you set these steering stops. With the steering stop set, you'll make sure that you do not overstress this cable. It's very important. You do a lot of damage, believe it or not, just off of these steering stops, because once you hit the travel, that's your cable's going to go. You're either going to overthrow the cable, bend the cable, none of which is going to be good. As you can see, I'm running the 4th hole. With the 4th hole, I actually have my steering moved out. Of course, this is with the Ninja bracket, not the factory bracket. So I'm still able to run the adapter. Overall, this unit is a lot beefier than the original. You can tell by the steering tabs. Notice the reinforcements up here versus the originals. Everything's thicker, nicer. It's just very well built. I can tell you, I have installed this before and I've ridden on it. I like the feel. I actually like the height a lot better than the original as well. It is, again, roughly 1.5 inches, 2 inches taller. For me, it makes it a very nice unit, but overall feel is fantastic. Alright, that does it for this video. Of course, any questions that you have, you can certainly hit me up on the